Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here, guys. I want you to be totally prepared for tonight's webinar. Again, for those of you that are on the webinar for the first time, my name is Jay Mamie, and it is an honor and a pleasure to have you on the webinar tonight. I know there are many of you that are on the webinar this evening from different parts of the country. As I said earlier, and I really appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to work on developing the very necessary skills that you need in order to increase your activity, especially in what I believe is the most important part of our business system and our business model that both you and I are in, and that is the front end part of the business. And the front end part of the business is the part that involves attracting new people into your company, finding ways to not only attract new people, but find ways to find people before you can attract anyone into your business. You have to first develop that skill of knowing where to find them and then what to say, and it's a process. And I believe those are the skills that are most important to succeed in this industry, in this business model that you and I have both decided to build our dreams through. So tonight's going to be dedicated and devoted to exactly that. I want to give you a fair warning, though. For those of you who are on this webinar for the very first time and have not been exposed to any of my previous training sessions or webinars or resources, this is going to be a little bit more of an advanced training. And now that's not to scare you. That's just to let you know that if you're wondering, hey, that is pretty advanced techniques, that's not where I'm at right now. Don't panic. Don't fret. Okay? It's okay. Just breathe a little bit, because you're going to have an opportunity to backtrack and pick up all of the resources that have led up to this 4th series of the Survive to Thrive training series. Yes, this is the 4th series, so it is a bit more advanced. But I didn't want to make it so far advanced so that those of you that are on this webinar for the first time will get lost or intimidated. I have made it simple enough that even if you're on this webinar for the very first time, you can develop an early set of skills that will help you become a master recruiter and to develop the skills necessary to be considered a recruiting master. And by the way, that's the end game here, guys. The end game here is to take your game, to up your game, to elevate your skills so that you can go beyond the malaise sort of pool of average recruiters that dominate this industry for the most part. And if you haven't figured that one out yet, the majority of most people in our industry, whether it's in my business or your business, whatever business that you might be in as you're listening to this, the majority of those individuals in this industry and this type of business model and business system are not very good at the fundamentals of recruiting, prospecting, recruiting, and so on. But you cannot hide the fact that those that have the greatest level of success are the ones that have taken their recruiting skills to a whole new level, thereby having that success that we all dream of having. Isn't that true? So now I'm going to ask you if that is the type of skill that's required, the prospecting, recruiting, verbiage, all the things that we're going to talk about, this pursuit of recruiting mastery, if it ultimately is what you have to achieve in order to have the type of success that you see your big builders in your company have, then doesn't it make sense to learn those skills early on now? I mean, after all, why make it hard on yourself? Why make it hard on yourself? And I believe too many people who join our opportunity or this type of business, and they're very excited, they're wide-eyed, they're bushy-tailed, they're excited, they're pumped up. You know, they lose that pizzazz relatively pretty quick. And some of you may even know what I'm talking about here. And that's not because of any other reason than a discouragement that sets in, a awkwardness that becomes overwhelming at this very important part of our business, which is recruiting and building a team. So tonight's going to be about elevating those skill sets with some very specific things we're going to talk about that will help you implement these techniques immediately. But I want to first kind of let you know why I do these recruiting webinars, and I can share with you the reason why I do them is because, number one, I enjoy teaching, I enjoy helping people, and I believe that that we're in such a great time right now to be involved in this business and any particular business that you might be in that you're listening to this webinar, that it bears to have this type of training so that you can generate the results that you want to generate, which is to change your life, right? So if I can play a small part in the changing of your life through just webinars and resources that help you improve and refine your own skills, then that will be a thrill for me, and it's a sense of satisfaction, it's a sense of achievement, and that's just the kind of person that I've always been. I've been a person who has been thrilled and passionate about instructing people, influence people, impacting people, and influencing people for the good. And so this webinar is designed to do that. And hey, look, at the end, if you win, we all win. And I believe what comes around goes around. I really believe that. So I hope that you take this training tonight to heart. I hope that you can really begin to absorb everything that we're going to talk about here. I'm going to encourage you to try to write fast. I will be sharing towards the end here how you can pick up a copy of this and some of the other resources, especially the full-length Recruiting Mastery, which is was just released about a month ago. It's already having great reviews. We'll get to that in a little bit. But while you're on this webinar watching it or hearing it, I hope you take good notes, fast notes, and just be ready to review and implement what you hear, because we are going to move at the speed of light. I promise that this webinar, as many of my other webinars are, I like to keep them to 45 to 50 minutes, no more than an hour, just enough to get you going, just enough to stretch those muscles and get you active, and there's always follow-up that can happen thereafter. So with that being said, welcome to Recruiting Mastery, the fourth part of our training series, and I want to hop right into it because I think it's very important for people to have a good understanding of the mindset that it takes to be in their business of recruiting mastery, in the business of being a master at the craft of recruiting. And by the way, I really do believe that you can be a master at the craft of recruiting. And I say craft because it is a skill, it is an important ingredient to this business, and I can almost, with a high degree of certainty, predict that you, however long you've been in this business, have probably not had an intense season of recruit training to any significant degree. Would I be accurate in saying that? I would say that your exposure to training on the fundamentals and the advanced skill sets to this very important component of our business system has probably been scattered, scant, and you've struggled through it. Is that safe to say? Well, I know that's the fact because a couple of weeks ago I did an event in Atlanta, and there was a number of different speakers at that event who had spoken on different topics, but it seemed that the topic that was the most sought after, the topic that people wanted to really continue that training on, was the topic that I discussed, which was recruiting mastery and how do you develop these skills. So I know that there's a hunger out there for people to know how to do this. I know that, and I'm sure you would agree with that as well. But you have to first take a step back and begin to develop an understanding of the mindset that you have to have in order to get to the level of recruiting mastery. Now, you might be a novice in recruiting. That's okay. You might be a, let's say, a seasoned recruiter, and great, you'll learn some stuff from this. But at whatever level you're at, you could always get better. I am always looking to get better at this craft because ultimately the better I get, the better my business grows. And I'm sure you want the same thing. But you have to develop the mindset. You have to develop what I call the DNA. You have to begin to create a new strand of DNA that gives you the empowerment, the confidence, the cockiness of recruiting mastery, of the frame of mind that you have to be in order to win at this part of our business. You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and I said, look, don't just copy my words. They were asking me, well, what do you say? What do you say when this happens? And how do you phrase this particular wording when appealing to someone? And I said, look, wait a minute. And I said, hang on a second. I can give you words all day long. And I don't have a problem doing that, as I was telling someone who was asking for my help. But, you know, if you're worrying about copying my words, you're going to fail. Because if you skip a step on one of my words that you've copied verbatim, or one of my phrases that you've copied verbatim, if you skip a step and in the process of skipping that step, fumble a little bit with the words, you're going to start to sweat. You're going to get uncomfortable again. Whoever it is that you're talking to is going to pick up on that anyway, and now you're worse off than before you started. You would have been better off saying nothing or just walking away. So it's not the wording, guys. It's creating the fiber, the DNA of a recruiter. It's creating the DNA of a recruiter. You know, if you create a brand new strand in your DNA system, it changes who you are. Did you know that? Physiologically and chemistry and also in the science of chromosomes. If one chromosome is off, it changes who you are. Well, if you create a brand new DNA strand, you change the chromosome to reflect a recruiting mindset, I promise you it'll change the way you go about your daily business. It'll change the way you think, and it'll change what you say. It'll just create a whole new you, bold, confident, cocky, in a good way, and unstoppable in the most important part of our business. What could that do for you? It could do wonders. But let me just encourage you with this one thought. Don't just take this training and become the guru of yourself. In other words, don't be the captain of your own rowboat here. You want to embrace this new level of thinking, this advanced training, and you go out and recruit and train others to develop the same skills you have. See, at the end of the day, success is not based on your success. Success is based on your successors. How many successors did you create? That's really the ultimate litmus test of how successful you were. It really doesn't boil down to how successful you were. It boils down to how many successors you created. And that's why recruiting is so important. But what is your perception? What is your personal perception of recruiting? See, if you don't get that straightened out yet, if you haven't gotten that straightened out, then you're going to fail. Here's my perception of recruiting, and you can copy this, take a hold of it. It's up for grabs. My perception of recruiting has always been the same today as it was when I first saw my first presentation back in November of 1992. I walked out of that meeting, and I thought to myself, wow, this is a great place to develop a network of people who develop a network of people. And that has never changed for me. The products have to be important because they have to be viable, credible, and intent on helping people. So you have to have good products and services. But I imagine that whether you're in our business or some other business, the product and service you have, you're proud of. It's viable, it's good, it's credible, it's been checked out, and it helps people. But that all by itself is not the opportunity. The opportunity is to be able to build a network of people who distribute those services, who build a network of people who distribute those services. See, you by yourself, all alone, can never become financially independent by yourself. It'll never happen. And if you try to do it by yourself in a sales capacity, you might achieve a great level of success on 1 year, maybe even 2 years. Here's what you're probably going to sacrifice for that: time, energy, and fun in pursuit of that. And most people don't have record-breaking years, year after year, individually in personal sales. It doesn't happen. So you have to understand that the perception in our business system is to develop a network of people who develop a network of people. That's it. But you've got to be the first one to start developing and getting very good at developing that network of people, and then that network builds another network of people. That's the ultimate system of distribution. You're building a company within the company that requires a network of people, period. That's the perception you should have. See, that has to begin to create a new DNA in your understanding of the business. It has to. If it doesn't, you're going to struggle. And it may not happen right away, so don't panic if it doesn't happen right away, guys. But it should start to happen relatively pretty soon. In fact, it should start to happen after we are done with this webinar, because tomorrow morning when you get up, you should have an immediate change of thought pattern as to how you're going to run your day, which brings me to my next mindset. Mind your business. Mind your business. What does that mean? In your open hours of operation, here's a good question for you. In your open hours of operation, what's running through your mind about your business? Are you focusing on the distribution of products or the acquisition of talent? Let me repeat that. Are you focused on the distribution of product or the acquisition of talent? See, if you say, well, you know, and guys, this is advanced training here. This is no pie in the sky. I'm not pulling any punches here. So you can't either. You can't be fake and phony here with yourself. And you know that if who you are, and if you get up in the morning and your thoughts and your mind starts to go down this road of new accounts and sales and product distribution, if that's where your mind goes, then you're missing what's happening here. You're missing it by a mile. Are you in the account acquisition business or the talent acquisition business? So you have to mind your business daily, and how you invest your precious time throughout the course of the day will determine the outcome. Here's what I mean. We've got 24 hours in a day. Now, obviously, you're not in business 24 hours in a day in terms of your awakeness, right? But every single one of us, we have 1,440 minutes, 1,440 minutes, and how you invest those 1,440 minutes, for the most part, not all of them, right, because you got to rest, will determine the end result of your business. Well, if you're thinking like a recruiting master, then the bulk of that mind has to be focused on, how can I acquire new talent? How can I grab a hold of something that's going to attract more people into my leadership development business? How can I do that? That's minding your business. And by the way, are you guaranteeing nothing? Let me just make this very, very clear in the best way I can. How do you guarantee? See, there's very few things in life you can guarantee, right? There's a few things you can guarantee, but there aren't that many. You and I could both name a bunch of things that we can guarantee, right? Well, here's how you can guarantee something here to get nothing. If you do nothing, if you say nothing, if you try nothing, if you expect nothing, then you're guaranteed to have nothing. So how do I apply that to this? Guys, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, if you do nothing with what you hear and learn tonight, or with what you do tomorrow or the day after, but it's a guarantee to fail. Here's how you can guarantee to fail, guarantee to have nothing. You decide that you're going to do nothing, say nothing, try nothing, practice nothing, and then you can expect nothing to happen. Well, if you're going to be a recruiting master, that cannot happen. That's a guarantee that you want no part of. Does that make sense? So you've got to try something. You've got to do something. You've got to practice something. You've got to expect something. And for goodness sakes, you've got to say something. Otherwise, you'll waste your time building this business the way that you would want to build it. By the way, this is a communication business, but let me clarify that. Again, we're talking about recruiting mastery here. We're talking about mindset here. techniques and verbiage and all the stuff we're going to get into in a few minutes means absolutely nothing if the mindset isn't created, if the DNA isn't starting to take shape in your chromosome, in your recruiting chromosomes. So our business here, our business is the communication business, right? Well, did you know that communication has nothing to do with conversation? And that's where the mistake many of you make. See, the novice recruiter, the inexperienced recruiter, thinks that he is communicating the opportunity because he's having a conversation with someone. Communication is nothing to do, communication has nothing to do with conversation. You could have a conversation with someone, but be communicating nothing. Hey, how many of you know what I'm talking about? How many of you have been in conversations where you wonder, what the hell is that guy talking about? And by the way, you've been in conversations where you're just blabbing off at the mouth and you're thinking you're coming across as some powerful communication and some message, and the other person is saying to themselves, what the hell is that person talking about, right? So communication is not conversation. Communication has everything to do with a verbal presentation. You know, every time you communicate a thought, you know what you're doing? You're having a verbal presentation. Isn't that true? If I'm communicating with you something, then I am verbally presenting an idea. I don't have any tangible material with me. I don't have any visuals with me, but I've got my words. And my words become a very powerful presentation. Effective communication is mastering verbal presentation. Hey, try having a verbal presentation in a social setting where conversation is appropriate, and watch how fast you lose friends. They won't invite you back to the party, right? So you understand the difference here. Verbal presentation, that's effective communication, and that's for a purpose. Conversation is just fluffy stuff that is not the same thing. Hey, a fail-safe system. Let me drill this in your head. We have a system here. You have a system here. Our business model is driven on a system. Get this, guys. Our business, if you are recruiting master and developing recruiting mastery skills, you have to get this through your head. We are in a fail-safe system here. This system is designed so that everyone can get to the top. It's a fail-safe system. If you do the work and practice on getting better. See, it doesn't matter here. This system has no relevance on your gender. It has no relevance on your academic history. It has no relevance if you're tall, short, fat, bald, skinny. You understand? If you're experienced, it has no relevance. This is a fail-safe system. All it requires for you to do is the work. And if you do the work, you get the same results. That's a fail-safe system. Now, how can you fail? If you don't do the work and if you don't practice at getting better every day. But you can get to the top here by embracing a system that allows you to get to the top by recruiting. And recruiting doesn't care who you are. Recruiting doesn't care where you come from. It doesn't even care what you look like. It doesn't care if you wear makeup. It doesn't care if you wear tight clothing. It doesn't care if you go to the gym or not. It works for everyone. It is neutral. It is it's not interested in the person. It's interested in the activity. Isn't that good to know? That means you could win here with a recruiting mindset. You could win here. The practice of practicing. Let me start to help you understand this part of it here. I'm going to get into some good stuff. By the way, I'm already into some good stuff, right? I'm already into some good stuff, and I'm just warming up. But, you know, it won't do you any good if you don't practice it. You know, people say to me all the time, say, man, that sounds so smooth, Jay. That sounds so good. I mean, it's like butter on bread, butter on warm toast, melts. I say, yeah, but you don't understand. I practice this sucker every day. I mean, I practice this every day, and you've got to practice it every day. You've got to practice it in front of your kids, practice it in front of your spouse, practice it in front of the wall, Practice it in front of your dog or your cat. Record yourself and hear yourself back. But you've got to practice this stuff every single day. You have to have those self-talks every single day. You know, if you go and deceive yourself to think that you're going to build any significant business, wherever your business is, or whatever you're doing, by a every other day approach, 3 days on, 1 day off, 4 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on. You know, the only time 1 day on, 2 days off, 3 days on, 1 day off, the only time that works is when you're competing for a bodybuilding show, and that's your routine at the gym. 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 2 days. Or you're a firefighter. All right, those guys work 3, 4 days in a row, and then they take 2 days off. We don't have a firefighter schedule here, and you and I aren't bodybuilding right now. So there is no off day. It's practicing every day, which leads me to my last point. As you're creating this new mastery, you got to do the work. You got to do the work. I would say that the majority of you that are on this webinar tonight, and those that are going to hear it in a recording, truth be told, a good portion or a good reason why you're not winning has nothing to do with ability, has nothing to do with desire. It has nothing really to do with your ability to comprehend material and your level of belief. You have all that. I would say is two things. Number one, you're lacking certain very important skills, and number two, you just aren't doing at least the things you know how to do. Does that make sense? So yeah, you're lacking some skills. I get it. That's why we're doing a webinar tonight. But here's the other factor. You're not even doing the work with the skills that you have. So learning these new skills, they require you to do the work. The work. And that's how you can become a recruiting master. Now, I'm going to go through how do you identify the joiners. By the way, was that pretty good? That's pretty good. Good stuff there, right? But now, part of understanding the mastery level of this is going beyond preschool. It's going beyond the toddler talk, like I often call it. It's really getting into deeper understanding of human nature and psychology of the psychological process of someone else and how they think. And by the way, this is important because if you're going to be a recruiting master, if you want to achieve that level, you have to know how to leverage yourself. You have not only with time, but you also have to know how to position yourself to be ahead of the curve when you're speaking to someone. That is very, very helpful. That's called tactful recruiting. But the other thing, and the most important thing, is you don't want to spin your wheels. How many of you, by the show of hands right now, would say, I have spun my wheels many a time? By the way, I am not only raising my hand, I'm raising my leg right now, and I'm actually hopping on one foot. Because I, too, have been through the painstaking troubles, heartaches of wasted time. So I decided long ago, I'm not wasting my time anymore, or I'm going to decrease the probability of my time being wasted by being way smarter about who I give my time to. Not everybody deserves your time, guys. Not everybody deserves your time. But if you do enough people business like I have, and if you've had enough conversations with people like I have and still do, then you begin to identify that there are certain traits that the joiner exhibits. You know, if you do something long enough, a correlation develops, right? If you do something long enough, you start to pick up a pattern. Things that you do long enough, you start to pick up a pattern. If you talk to people long enough, and if you talk to enough people long enough, you will see that there's a pattern. I have developed a pattern for the joiner. I have developed traits that are common to the joiner. Now, is that important for you to know? The answer is hell yeah. And that's a two-part answer, right? Hell yeah. Why? Because why would you want to go through the giving away of your precious time to someone that really is not a joiner, and for you to find out an hour, 2 hours later, right? That doesn't make any sense. But if you can identify that that person has a higher probability of joining your business simply because he's displaying those traits, well, now you may still end up wasting your time, because that can happen, but the likelihood of that happening is drastically decreased. Why? Because the probability of that person saying yes and joining your business is greater because those traits are present. Does that make sense? I run for the hills if I'm talking to someone and they don't display any of these traits. I mean, I'm out of there like Vladimir. I do not waste my time or give too much of my time if I don't find or don't see these traits in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of my conversation with someone. In fact, there are traits of those who don't join that are become very obvious if you sit down and talk to enough people in this business. A recruiting master will pick up on these traits right away. Let me give you a little summary on them. By the way, guys, I have this on an extended version in my recruiting mastery book. It's an extended version. Obviously, for the sake of time, there's only so many things I can get into tonight. But they are, each of these traits, I break them down further in the book, okay? By the way, I know what some of you are thinking. Hey, Jay, this is great stuff, but are you going to help us find new people? The answer is yes. We'll get into that in a minute. But I've covered that already in the first, second part of this series, and that's available in some other material that I have, okay? Hey, but you have to know where to find the people, even to do any of this stuff, including identifying who they are, who the joiner is, right? You have to find the raw material. But it's important to know the traits. So what's one of the traits? Joiners join. These are people that join everything. So how do you know if someone that you're meeting with is a joiner? You ask them, anything else you've joined in the past? And they'll tell you, well, I volunteer at church. You know, I've joined this club. I'm part of that club. And they just join. They're like chronic joiners. They'll join even things they're not supposed to join. They're just joiners. They just love to join things. Now, they don't do much sometimes. A joiner who loves to join, just like, you know, they're like hanging around people. They like being around people, right? They just, to be a part of a team, they want to wear the jersey, and they want to know that they got somewhere to go on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, and they want to be a part of something, so they join. It beats staying home. Don't expect them to do much, but so how do you identify a joiner? You ask them, anything else you've joined? Tell me a little bit about what you've joined in the past. And if they tell you, well, and they pull out a resume of things they've joined, that person probably will join you too. Now, if they tell you haven't joined anything, I'm sort of a hermit, that person probably is not going to join. He's not a joiner. Joiners are helpers. They like helping people. And they're involved in efforts to better mankind. And if your business, like my business, is about helping people and they can see the value in that, then the probability of them joining is very strong because that's their nature. They're helpers. And there's a way to find out if they're helpers, and you can discover that in the conversation. Joiners are career adventurers. These are people who try different things. They try different things. I would say if you're on this webinar tonight, if you're in a business, that you probably have a resume, like I have a resume, that in my past 20 years, I've done a bunch of things in addition to what I do now, but I've tried different things. You kind of are always looking for the next new adventure, whether it's a new job or a new business. It's a new exciting adventure for people to try something new. And how do you know if they've done that? It's usually on their resume. It's usually in the conversation. They'll tell you they did this, that, and the other in the last 5, 6 years. They're career adventurers. They get a thrill from trying something new, from a new environment, from a new set of people, to learn new skill sets. It creates a break from the norm. Joiners are career adventurers. Joiners are also cause-driven people. They get involved for a mission. They get involved because at the end of the day, there's something that they're doing to better mankind. They're cause-oriented. They like to know that their involvement in something is changing the lives of someone else. Guys, guess what? I'm a cause-driven person. I'm a cause-driven person. I'm a helper. That's me. That's you. You don't have to go very far to make this, to kind of figure this thing out, guys. A lot of times, you just got to look within yourselves, and by looking within yourselves, you end up having the answers. The answers. Joiners are cause-driven people. How do you know? You ask them. Is there anything that you're passionate about, John? Tell me a little bit about the last time you got behind a mission. If the guy says, you know, I've never done anything, I don't like helping people, and I'm really not interested in doing anything that doesn't benefit me first, probably not a joiner. Roll on. Joiners are positive and they're excited people. How many of you can tell, and those who've never met me, how many of you can tell by the tone, by my tonality and my expression, that I'm a pretty positive and excited kind of guy? Well, guess what? I didn't get to the business and become positive and excited here. I didn't take a blue pill. I didn't sign my paperwork and they slipped me a Mickey or something, and all of a sudden I became excited. And neither did you, by the way. You showed up to the table. You showed up to the party. You showed up to the meeting already a positive, excited kind of person. And whether or not you had gotten involved with this business or your business, you have been excited and positive somewhere else. Isn't that true? Well, joiners are positive and excited people. By the way, if you have someone who shows up at your door, shows up at your house, shows up at your party, shows up at your office, and they look like death rolled them over, that person is probably not a joiner. You know, I'm a firm believer that by the time you're 21, you're responsible for your face. And if your face is that of death, good indication you're probably not an excited person, and you're not very positive, and no one wants to be around you anyway. That person is not going to join an environment where there's other positive and excited people. Can you see that? They're just not going to do that because they feel uncomfortable. They're not going to join. But yeah, if you're 21 years old, you can get a pass up to 21 years old. But if you're 21 years old, thereafter, you have no excuse. You are responsible for your face. Joiners have ADHD. Now, in the book, I talk about why I mention ADHD, and you know, so you'll have to find why I use that acronym. I don't mean it in any disrespectful way or insensitive way. And when you read the book, you'll hear my personal story. But here, I represent the acronym as augmented desire, heightened determination. That's the ADHD that I'm talking about here. That's somebody who is an incredibly determined person, an incredibly desiring person. They want to win more than anything else. That's a joiner. They want to just go forward. That's a joiner. They want to make changes. That's a joiner. Somebody who is just has an above average level of desire to win and will do whatever it takes. That's a joiner. They got ADHD. How many of you in the room are ADHD? Right? All the hands virtually are raising. And by the way, joiners are ready for change. They are not comfortable with where they're at. They're looking to make changes. They're looking to get out of the rut. They're looking for something that could breathe life back into their existence again. They're ready for change. They're sick and tired of their job. They're showing up to places and working with people they don't even like for pay they can't even live on anyway. They've had it. When I joined this business, I was a social worker, broke. I was making $900 every 2 weeks as a social worker back in 1992. I was personally training. I was a personal trainer, training people at 6 o'clock in the morning for $25 because I needed to supplement my social work income. As a social worker, you don't make any money. I was frustrated. I was working with negative people. I mean, I was ready for a change. Making no money, frustrated with what I was doing, didn't really see a big future in what I was involved in, and I'm going to work every day with pinheads. Man, I needed to get out of there. Well, just happened to come along, caught me at the right time because I was ready for a change. The person who's the joiner, he's ready for a change. Now, isn't it nice to recognize these traits in someone that you're talking to way before you start wasting your time? Hey, a recruiting master does all he can or all she can not to waste their time on people that more than likely probably will not join. See, if you hang out with people too long or spend too much time with people that don't join, they just waste your time and frustrate you and eat up your time and your money and your energy, right, and your positive vibration. If they suck that out of you, you know what eventually happens to you? Excuse me. What happens to you is you become one of them. And you end up quitting because you're convinced it doesn't work. Oh, it's never going to happen for me. I can't find anybody. No, you're just wasting your time with people on the front end that wouldn't have joined anyway. A recruiting master doesn't waste his time with people that identify themselves early on as a non-joiner. Non-joiners are not the people you want to spend your time with, but you have to master these 9 common traits. Does that make sense, everybody? All right. I want to cover the last topic here in some very important skill development. And what I mean by that is there are certain stages of skill development that you have to have, or that you have to go through, rather, in order to achieve this high level of confident recruiting mastery, this high level of efficient, cocky recruiting mastery. There are stages you have to go through. And I don't know why, I can't figure out for the life of me why this kind of stuff isn't taught more. It's just, you know, you don't get involved in a business like this or an industry like ours with a system that involves these skill developments and then not actively, personally pursue them, or get involved in an environment where they're taught to you. For the life of me, I can't believe why this is, I don't understand why this isn't a thing that should be taught all the time in some of these organizations. A brand new person does not enter this business already wired with these skills. They have to be developed, and they have to go through stages of development. Aren't you glad that you're on this webinar tonight getting this stuff? If you're a novice, good for you. If you're here's a seasoned recruiter, here's your chance to up your game. Number one, you have to be, the first skill development is the skill of creative prospecting. You have to have creative prospecting. Think outside the box. There's what I call strategic recruiting. In one of my books, I talk about that. I talk about how thinking outside the box. Hey, look, in my book, and I don't mean in my book, physical book, I mean in my mindset, in my own way of thinking, the minute you start thinking there's a box, you're in trouble. People say you got to start thinking outside the box. Now, obviously, I used it here on the screen just to make a point. But the minute you think there's a box, you're already in trouble. You're already starting with a handicap just because you think there is actually a box. There is no box. Eliminate the box. You've got to get creative as you possibly can. Let me give you a few ideas of how to get creative. We had some fun with this a few weeks ago at an event that I had a chance to share this with. But the Venus flytrap. Here's a creative way to prospect. Now, why is it that people make it so difficult in attracting people, you know, or pursuing people, rather, pursuing prospects? Why not make it easy on yourself? Why not take take a shortcut and have people come to you? You know, the Venus flytrap is that big old plant that is wide open. All of a sudden, as soon as like a fly comes around or some kind of bug, it just closes in and eats whatever it is that flies into that. Yeah, I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Well, Venus flytrap prospecting means you've got to make yourself so attractive, like that Venus flytrap. It smells of sugar. It's got that sweetness in the air, and it attracts the bugs. And then it's sticky. So when the bugs get in there, they're attracted by that aroma, and they hop into the middle to eat whatever it is they think they're going to eat. Boy, they're the ones that get eaten. That's the Venus flytrap approach. You've got to make yourself so attractive, so visually appealing, so interesting that you attract people to you in conversation. What do I mean by that? I shared with the folks at the meeting last at that event. Why not wear, if you're a guy, why not wear a real wacky looking tie, real funky tie? Now I don't mean something that's going to make you look like a clown or weird. I mean, no one's going to talk to you if you're weird. But if you're confidently wearing this really odd tie that's sort of bright colors, but again, but it's very appealing, you're going to get people that are going to be attracted visually to you because of the tie, because it's different, it's visual, and we are visually minded creatures. We like things that look nice. That's why when you go to a good restaurant, presentation on the plate is everything. The food could suck, but if it's presented nice, your mind thinks, hey, it doesn't taste so bad. Right? How many of you have had a lousy meal, but it looks so pretty on the plate that you rationalize that it wasn't so bad, right? Because you started eating with your eyes. Well, that applies to just about everything. Even when you go out, if you're a single, you go out clubbing, you go out dancing, right? What appeals to you most? If you're a guy, whatever appeals to you, you know, if it looks good, if it's dressed nice, if it smells good, it's attractive. Same thing if you're a woman. If the guy looks good, tight shirt, whatever the heck, it's visually appealing, right? And your eyes automatically, that's where they go to. Well, that's the Venus flytrap approach is wear some shoes that are pretty funky. Wear socks. You know, guys, I wear at the gym, I've got these because I'm a former bodybuilder, so I'm still in very good shape. And I wear at the gym tight-fitting superhero shirts. I have a Superman shirt. I have a Punisher shirt. I love Marvel. I love superheroes. I grew up on comic books, so I'm a big fan. So when I found that they had these nice-looking, tight-fitting, bodybuilding-type workout shirts at the sporting goods store, I picked up like 4 or 5. And they feel good on me, but what happens when I get to the gym? People come up to me and they, hey, that's a great shirt. I get the guys that come up to me and they goof on me and they say, hey, don't wear that shirt around here. You're making us look bad, right? And why do I do it? It's a trap. I'm a trap. So they come over and we start talking. I'm off to the races. Well, you've got to figure something out too. Make yourself attractive. Have people come to you, but you better know what to say when they do. Hey, think outside the box. Go find people that are in the like-minded profession that you're in. In other words, if you are in the education business, then go find some people that are education-minded. If you are in a healthcare business, then go find some people that are healthcare-minded. If you're in real estate business, go find some people that are real estate-minded. Make life easy on yourself and put yourself in a place where you can have a common ground of conversation with people that are in like-minded professions. Does that make sense? I wrote extensively on that in my Prospecting Survival Guide book, guys. Extensively on that. Hey, seasonal search is another way to think outside the box. Think hard on the people that have highs and lows in their activity throughout the course of the year. Here's an example. Right now would not be a good time to have a conversation with someone in the accounting world as we are right smack in the beginning weeks of tax season. Right now wouldn't be a great time to talk to a realtor because they're getting ready for spring market. But it'd be a great time to talk to someone who was seasonal retail because the holidays are over. It'd be a great time to talk to someone who is in Medicaid or Medicare because open enrollment season is now over. You see what I'm talking about? You have to give this thought and finding seasonal in your prospecting people that because of the season they'll be not as busy and therefore more open to your approach. Does that make sense? Sometimes you're approaching the right people at the wrong time because it's not the right season. Let me jump into the websites. That's a whole other conversation with LinkedIn and some other things that are coming up now that I'm working on, the new book here. And opportunity.com is a wonderful site. It's a site that allows you to set up a filter and you can really have people matched to you depending on the profile you set up as a hiring manager, as someone who is offering opportunity, and it does all the work for you. It's amazing. The last creative thought is, who do you know, and not I mean who do you know, but think of the type of person that could benefit from an opportunity where they can generate income, where it's flexible to meet their time restraints, and where they have to have an accommodation of working from home. See, when I thought about that, I said, well, I'm in the kind of type of business that I can offer people a chance to earn income at will, where it's flexible to their time constraints, and it is accommodating to the place that they want to work from. Now, there aren't so many opportunities like there, guys. Jobs certainly don't offer that, not too many of them. But our opportunities do, don't they? Well, who is the kind of person? What is the profile of a person that fits those three wonderful features of what our opportunity can offer? Accommodation, flexibility, and income. Go figure it out. I can give you a hint. At-home parents, whether it's an at-home mom or at-home dad. You know, these days you see an increasing number of at-home dads, right? Equal to, not equal, but a lot higher than it was 15, 20 years ago. Well, at-home mom or dads love the fact that they can earn an income where it's going to be accommodating. They can work from home, especially if they're caring for children, and it gives them the flexibility to participate at will. You have to think outside the box. If you're going to be a recruiting master, you have to think outside the box. Let's get to the next stage of skill development, effective communication. Guys, we could spend hours on this one. Effective communication is an important skill development. Let me give an example of what I mean by that. You can become very good at prospecting, very good at meeting people, but if you fall short on the communication part, the effective communication part, the verbal presentation part, you will find not only your efforts to be frustrating, but very discouraging. Okay? So I'm going to give you just one of what I mean by having the effective communication, effective verbal presentation. Let me role play it for you. John, by the way, John could be anybody. John could be someone that you know. John could be someone that you met. John could be someone that you're building a relationship with. So it could be someone that is not someone you just met like a minute ago, but someone that you're building a little bit of rapport with. John, there's a global company that I've been researching recently that shares the same passion you do for helping people. And I'm really impressed with their grassroots approach. Now, do you see why this can't be someone you just met off the street or online or however you met them? This is someone that you might know a little bit more than just hello, right? Because you have to know that they have a passion for helping people. And I was really impressed with their grassroots approach. You wouldn't mind if I send you information on them, would you? I'd love your feedback. John, there's a global company that I've been researching recently that shares the same passion that you do for helping people. And I'm really impressed with their grassroots approach. You wouldn't mind if I send you information on them, would you? Boy, I'd love your feedback. You know what John's going to say? Yeah, sure, send it to me. You know, that right there, guys, is worth the whole webinar. Isn't that true? How many of you are going to capitalize just on that will see your activity increase just because it is? And I've got tons of them, tons of them. But that's a powerful example of effective communication, of a verbal presentation. Very effective. Stage 3 of skill development. You have to get very good at persuasive presenting. Persuasive presenting. Some of you give presentations often, but the results are not reflective to any degree of a successful presentation. Why? Because you're bland. Your presentation is all mind. It's all head-driven, mind-driven, academically driven. And that's okay. But, man, you have to get the heart in there. So you have to insert heart by the words and the phrases that you use. Words and phrases can trigger in someone hope. And by the way, people decide to join because they get a sense of hope in the opportunity. Isn't that why you joined? I mean, think about it, guys. Isn't that why you joined? You joined because you were excited about the possibilities of it working. The hope behind the try. Well, how about this? How about you present using these words and phrases next time? John, after this meeting, things don't have to be the same anymore. You know, John, what if you became successful here? Can you see how that can elicit hope from someone who you're meeting with? And all of a sudden, you're pouring into them this subliminal wording and phrasing that is eliciting, it's drawing out the hope that maybe has died in that person long ago or is buried underneath discouragement. And now you say to him, John, you know that things don't have to be the same after this meeting? You know that you can become very successful here? John, this could be what you've been looking for. This could be what you've been looking for. This could be the start to a better life experience. Isn't that what you want, John? You know, I said earlier, none of this won't work if you don't practice it. Now you're starting to see what I mean, right, guys? How about you the next time you have a conversation, or rather a presentation with someone, as you're going through this presentation, you say, hey, John, in our company, what if you became successful here? This could be the start of a better life. John, after this meeting, things don't have to be the same anymore. Hey, what if you became very successful here? This is what you've been looking for. That person will have hope rise where hope was dead, just because you used words that drew it out. That is a skill that you have to develop in order to be very effective at persuasive presenting. And let me give you the last one here. Here's the one that counts. Here's the major skill development that counts that we're going to wrap up here. And I'll show you where you can get some of these resources. It's the power of try. It's the power of try. The power of try. Why is the power of try? Appeals to the non-committal mentality that is common among people today. Hey, don't we live in a world today where people just want to try? They want to kick the tires. Everything is a 30-day trial, right? 30-day trial. Sign up. Don't have to pay nothing. In other words, you don't have to commit. You can back out. No one's holding your feet to the fire. It's okay to exit stage right or stage left. It's okay if you quit. That's the mindset that we're in today. Isn't that true? You know, my mother says to me that back in her, my mother's 87 years old, and she says to me, she says, when she was young, and back in her day, I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, a man's word was his bond. And that was it. If the guy or gal said, I'll be there at 6, he was going to be there at 6. If you shook a hand at the bank and they said, you got the money, you got the money. There wasn't this double, triple confirming something. When people committed, they committed. When they said they were going to do something, they did it. All in or nothing. Or they wouldn't say yes. Times have changed. Someone could say yes, and that's almost synonymous with saying maybe. Isn't that true? That's what the world we live in today. Well, then you've got to use that to your advantage. If this is what we're dealing with, use it to your advantage. People will decide to do the business if they feel they can try, if they can exercise their non-committal approach. So how do you drive that? How do you draw that from people? How do you get people to try? Well, first of all, you have to bombard them with the persuasive word of try, try, try. I use that word no less than 6 or 7 times in the course of a presentation, try. And then I supplement that with, hey, you can test drive the opportunity, you know. What's the test drive means? You can always give it back. If you don't like it, you could always give it back. Test drive it. Hey, just come in here and kick the tires around. See if you like it. You've got nothing to lose. See, that plays right into that non-committal mentality that we live in today, in this day and age. The power of try, the word try, is the most powerful word you can use in getting someone or encouraging someone or helping someone to say, yes, I'll join. Yes, I'll do it. Where do we start? How do I sign up? What's my next step? Where do we go from here? What do I do now? Those are all the words, right? All the questions that you and I love hearing from someone that we've just spent time showcasing our opportunity to. Isn't that true? Well, one word, try. John, I want you to give this opportunity a try. You've got nothing to lose. You can come in this thing and test drive it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. If it works out, let's continue. If it doesn't work out, hey, you kicked the tires around. You didn't have to give up your job. You could always go back to whatever you were doing. That, my friends, will help people feel at ease to get started when they know, hey, he did say I can kick the tires around. So you want them in the environment and let the environment coach them. Let the environment mold them. Let the environment encourage them to stay another day. Try. Guys, I want to close here with the following. I would encourage you to go to the Amazon. You can go to Amazon. I think many of you already have done this, but there are probably a whole bunch more listening now and will be listening in the future to this recording. If you look at the screen, you'll see just from 3 reviews on Amazon, great reviews on Recruiting Mastery. You could download it on Kindle, and you'll have it within minutes, and you can start reading that immediately. But there's some pretty powerful people on the screen here who don't give reviews lightly, and they did for a reason, because it is a home run of a work. And I just covered 50 minutes of it. There's a whole lot more. So you can go to Amazon and just type in Recruiting Mastery. In fact, I'll just show you exactly what you can do here, and you'll know where to find it. Here's the Amazon. You can just type in Recruiting Mastery, and you'll have a chance to download it immediately. But for those of you who have not had any of the prior training, the prior session, let me encourage you to visit my other site here, Survive to Thrive, my survivetothriveguide.com. Here's where you can also go from here and directly order the Recruiting Mastery. But this is where you could find the other resources that I spoke about. Here's the book, Survive to Thrive. I get into the wording here. This chapter 4 of this book is all about wording and phraseology. I only gave you a couple of items. I've devoted a whole entire chapter to that, which is very, very powerful. I also had a Recruit University about a year ago. I just did another one in 2016, October 2016. That one is now in the editing. It'll be available as well. But you could find it here, the Recruit U 2015, an all-day workshop on recruiting. The DVD, the audio, It's all part of the, it's available here. It's called Recruit You. Here's the Prospecting Survival Guide. Some of the ideas I talked about. Where do you find people? How do you find people? Well, I wrote a book here that has not only 11 chapters, but 11 other ways. So a total of 22 different techniques that put you in the firing lines to finding people, creative prospecting. I've heard tremendous success stories from people who have had picked up this book here. It's what I do every day, guys. It's what I do every day. And you can certainly find that. And it's a great resource, this site. I encourage you to go and pick up as much of it as you can and start to really practice and drill and rehearse this. There should be no reason why in your business you cannot achieve recruiting mastery if you just follow the training, the techniques, practice them, drill and rehearse them. And finally, I know many of you are already on my YouTube channel, but if you're not, I'm going to encourage you to go to YouTube and search my name, Jay Mamie, Survive to Thrive. We're just getting started in here. We've got already about 25 audio trainings, and I am uploading about one every week or so, and tremendous training material here. As you can see, they're pretty much all audio. That's soon to change to more of a video format, but the audios are killer, and they're absolutely life-changing. They pertain not only to business and how to improve your business mindset, but also other areas of your life as well. And I even get into some of prospecting fundamentals, some more master the art of communication. Some prior webinars that I've done are also clipped on here. So tremendous resources, free. Sign up, become a subscriber. You'll get all the different audios as soon as I upload them. We are changing the format, so again, it's going to be very high touch and high tech pretty soon, and I'm sure you'll appreciate that, and it'll help your business. Guys, I appreciate your time tonight. I know it's late for those of you in the East Coast. For those of you in the West Coast, you're probably just sitting down for dinner. Let me encourage you with what I started earlier. Put this to practice. Do the work. Practice the practicing. And start to develop the DNA of a recruiting master. I can guarantee you it will change your business. And the reason that you joined whatever business you're in initially, those reasons will come to pass. You will no longer have to be frustrated. You'll no longer have to be confused. You no longer will have to admire and envy others because of what they've done in the business. You'll be able to look back at what you're doing, and the admiration will flow right back to you simply because you developed the necessary skills that are an absolute important component of this business system that you and I are in. The system of building a business within a business, a company within a company, developing a network of people who develop a network of people, but it has to start with you. You've got to be the one to do it. You've got to be the role model. You've got to be the one they copy. You've got to be the first recruiting master on your team, and watch what happens. Guys, I appreciate you. Hit me back on text messaging after this. I love the feedback. Most of you have got my contact number. If not, it's 212-203-1425, 212-203-1425. I appreciate you guys being in there. Hope that it helps. Love to hear the feedback, and good night, everybody.